began as a speck in the void. For years, astronomers at observatories across the globe had catalogued countless near-Earth objects, tracking their paths and predicting possible collisions. Most passed harmlessly by, and the public quickly grew numb to the headlines. But this one was different. They named it Kronos, a 10-kilometer-wide asteroid hurtling through space at 20 kilometers per second. It had been hiding in the blind spot of our solar system, obscured by the sun's glare. By the time it was discovered, Kronos was only 6 months away from impact. Governments scrambled. Emergency meetings convened at the United Nations. The world's space agencies pooled resources, launching desperate missions to nudge Kronos off course. They failed. Nothing could stop it. Month 1, the world reacts. At first, disbelief. Then panic. Social media exploded with conspiracies and false hopes. Religious groups predicted the apocalypse. Billionaires fled to secret bunkers in New Zealand or under Colorado mountains. Ordinary people emptied supermarkets, boarded up homes, and searched the skies. The asteroid would strike near the equator, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. It was the worst-case scenario. Month 2, unity and chaos. Surprisingly, the world briefly united. Nations coordinated evacuations of coastal cities. The UN established the Global Survival Coalition, urging countries to share resources and build underground shelters. Governments activated emergency powers. But not everywhere. Some nations collapsed under the weight of civil unrest. In secret, the elite prepared to ride out the aftermath in climate-controlled bunkers. Most of humanity had no such option. Month 6, impact. Day 0. At 9:17 a.m. Coordinated Universal Time, the sky lit up. The asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire across the heavens. It screamed louder than any thunder. People from Alaska to Argentina looked up and saw it, a second sun. And then it hit. The impact vaporized the ocean for hundreds of kilometers. A shockwave taller than Mount Everest exploded from the site, sending walls of superheated water and debris in every direction. The tsunami reached coastlines in under an hour, swallowing cities whole. The energy released was equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. Earthquake. Volcanoes erupted worldwide, their ancient chambers awakened by the shock. But that was only the beginning. Year 1, the long dark. Dust and ash choked the skies. Sunlight faded, temperatures plummeted, crops failed. What became known as the impact winter had begun. Billions died in the first year, not just from the blast or tsunamis, but from starvation, disease, and the collapse of society. Cities became ghost towns or war zones. Nations ceased to exist. Communication networks fell apart. Yet in pockets of the world, people endured. Underground shelters lit by LEDs. Remote farms shielded by greenhouses. Isolated islands that missed the worst of the ash. Survivors formed new communities and tried to hold on to what was left of civilization. The skies remained gray. Snow fell in equatorial jungles. The seas turned acidic. The extinction of thousands of species began. Year 10. Emergence. Slowly, the dust began to settle, literally and figuratively. The sun returned, weak but warming. Forests began to grow again, though they were different, mutated, alien, shaped by radiation and change. The survivors emerged, blinking in the unfamiliar light. Humanity had been reduced to fewer than 100 million. The old world was gone. The internet, skyscrapers, cars, fossil fuels, relics of a bygone era. New societies rose from the ashes, blending old wisdom with salvaged technology. Solar power became sacred. Clean water was currency. Knowledge was survival. Myths were born. Stories of the firestone that fell from the heavens, of the great darkness, of the days when metal birds flew in the sky. But in hidden vaults and bunkers, scientists kept the memory of the past alive. Seeds, books, data, preserved for the time when the Earth healed enough to begin again. Year 50, the new Earth. The Earth looked different now. Coastlines had changed. Deserts covered what had once been fertile. But life endured. A new civilization began to rise, not as fast or as grand as the last, but wiser. They revered the sky, studied the stars not for conquest, but for warning. They remembered Kronos. They told the story of the day the sky fell, not just as a tale of death, but of survival. Of a planet that had been wounded, but not broken. Of a species that had almost destroyed itself, yet found meaning in the ashes. And high above, satellites launched by the old world began to blink back to life. Watching, waiting,